Alright, so it looks like we're in with the first game in the Kushalos versus Mazar series for RU Open Finals. Whoever wins this will also have to win their game against user HJAD. Not sure if that's something that is... I don't know what that abbreviation for is, frankly, but that's alright. Anyway, looking at their teams, they're both fairly interesting. I'm not entirely sure I'm loving Kush's team right now, but neither here nor there. Alright, so looking at it, Kush has a fairly quote-unquote basic balance, utilizing the new drops in Mega Boom Snow Slow King. He's got what I can only imagine, it can be either Sash or the Calm Mind Psycho Shift variant of Sigilif. Presumably a more defensive Flygon given his vulnerability to electrics, and okay, we're just getting into it. So we see a Bronzong on Quillfish right here. Honestly, not very good for Kush. He does neither... Oh, well. Yeah, it doesn't favor Kush to try to even set up Stealth Rocks here, because there's the Threat of Taunt, Scald Burn. This would be atrocious for him since he needs this for... Okay, he stays in anyway and goes for it. I don't agree with that play whatsoever, but we'll take of it what it is. So he's going for Toxic Spikes, and that honestly is something that Kush can control rather well. He has two targets hit by it that are both significant, but he has the capacity to switch around without necessarily bringing them in. Slowking's not forced to come in on anything that badly here, and Sigilif does reveal that it is the Psycho Shift variant, which is honestly kind of a pain for Matsuri to deal with, because his fire type is very vulnerable to Sigilif, can't really switch in. I feel like he's probably just going to go to Rhyperior. Yeah, Rhyperior would be safe here, because he still has responses to Fletchender in the wing via Rotom, which looks to be the sub-variant that has been gaining some traction recently. It's not a bad set at all. Requires a certain build to work, and I think that he fulfills it, and he just leaves the Quillfish. Oh, it's supposed to be a... I guess that's a Sash variant. That's quite interesting on this build. But I can see it functioning, you know. Sash Quillfish doesn't necessarily have to be played as a suicide lead, but due to the Sash, it has the capacity to, which offers an interesting mechanic that I think is kind of necessary to a Spikes lead in this metagame, because if you're playing with a Spikes lead, you can't really get both Stealth Rock and Spikes into a set unless you're running Crustle, which is honestly a pretty mediocre Pokemon, if I'm being quite honest. So you have to fill both hazard leads within 2 team slots, and in doing so, you only have 4 Pokemon to, you know, do what you want offensively. So having that ability to play in the mid-game if need be is pretty interesting. I'm not sure how I feel about him booming there, though, because honestly, Kush is pretty safe. He can get the defog off on Rotom, and that's the main thing about the Rotom on Flygon matchup. It's that Rotom, while a pretty decent spin blocker and choice for Spike Stack in general, it also will inevitably concede that defog to Flygon at least once, and for that reason I like to have my Spikers have a little bit more of a long-term presence in the game. So we'll have to see how that pans out. This might honestly favor him, though, here, because Sigilif was really annoying, so that trade might very well be worth it. So, let's see. He brings in Virizion here, and this is as free of a close combat as you're going to get, really. Oh, it is special. Alright, so that's going to be interesting here, because honestly, a lot less threatening to Kush, while I'm being perfectly honest. He can just get off his Defog here without much fear. The thing with Calm Mind over Sword Stance, while it is less powerful overall, it does have the ability to utilize Life Orb, which is going to accommodate a bit there, as well as the ability to Oko Durant that's trying to come. He brings in Rotom hard on the Flygon. Okay. So, yeah, he is going to go for that. So, yeah. Alright. That's another good thing about Rotom, though. I mean, while Flygon, yes, it will be able to get the defog off, it's not immediately pressuring Rotom in any way, shape, or form. Once it gets Wisp, it's doing absolutely nothing. Even like a Dragon Tail variant, which is kind of mediocre. Usually you're seeing Toxic or U-Turn. It won't be beating it unless it's some kind of Jolly Flygon, which is overall not that great. That said, Kush kind of struggles to bring stuff in on this. Okay, he's bringing the Sigilyph, but that's... I guess he's going to trade it here for breaking the sub, which, yeah, he's not really getting a ton of value out of it now that it's at this amount of HP. His one Pokemon that he could remotely check is slower than it, and, yeah, Sigilyph doesn't have that much. So I guess he's getting something from it there. And now he goes into, I imagine, his Abomasnow. He doesn't really have an alternative play. His Slowking, if it's Calm Mind, can sort of come in, but really not that well. So if this is an SD Abomasnow, this is a very good trade for Roster. He just clicks Wisp, probably gets out of there, and sees where he goes from. But on the other hand, that might open him up a bit more to Fletch than he would like. Okay, so he does choose to make the switch, and he gets Wood Hammered for a nice chunk. Obviously, that's a Scarf, well, uninvested Emboar, rather. You can't say for certain, but generally speaking, these kind of teams, you want to have the Scarf set, especially if you're going to have Meloetta, which it just opens you up a lot more to Houndoom than you would like, in my past experiences. Plus, without Scarf on this, Delphox would absolutely destroy him, so that's something. Okay, and he just goes for the basic superpower play, nothing uncommon, so... yeah, switching into this isn't great for him, but knowing Kush, he might not even have Psyshock. That said, Matsuri doesn't know that, so he might just have to initial pivot Meloetta, especially because Grizion being special means that he can't immediately pressure the Slowking if he gets up a Calm Mind here, which I'm expecting from Kush, and he doesn't lose much by going for that at all. So, I don't understand that double. What was he? Maybe it's not a Calm Mind Slowking? That's interesting. Cause yeah, Kush has used Psywave Bronzong, which should be able to break the subs here, but okay, he's content making this trade, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. Maybe it is the Psywave set, because otherwise he just, wisps, and okay, there's the Psywave, so there you go. Psywave, for those that don't know, I believe it does 51 to 151 HP randomly, which, I can't confirm, but point being, Rotom generally has around 260 HP, so yeah, that's gonna pretty consistently be breaking this up, so at least he's getting away with that much. And he gets a little frisky there, brings in the Abomasnow hard, so looks like he is going to nab a KO, if not some really good damage on a Pokemon. I think that Matsuri is forced to just throw the Wisp here, keep Abomasnow in check, and rely more heavily on Rhyperior to handle the Fletchinder, which would be tough because, now that Kush let his Bronzong take damage, he only has the Flygon to adequately switch into Rhyperior. I don't think that Slowking's particularly safe given the threat presented by Megahorn on Rhyperior, and the fact that generally it will be outspeeding unless he's running a really fast Slowking, which, not out of the question. It's not that unheard of, but generally Slowking will be in the, at most creeping around 80 EVs of speed, unless you are really going out of your way to, target that Rhyperior, which is, again, an option, but not one that I would assume for here. Looking at it, Grizion seems, yeah. Okay, so he brings in the Meloetta, and it looks like he can just fire off a Hyper Voice if he has it. I wouldn't get greedy with setup here because Kush's play is to Woodhammer here, just to prevent. Oh, he's Relic Song. That's something. All right. So that changes things a bit. He doesn't show life orbs, so it means that Fletch is in a position to do something. I feel like Wisp is really obvious here, and that might lead Mazar to get a little aggressive just because of the nature of Meloetta. You know, it always needs that turn to set up, and it's not readily getting that versus most Pokemon here, so he might just try to go for the return here, because that does a load to Fletch. It is not a bulky Pokemon. So we'll just have to see here. I think that it's in his best interest just to go for the attack here. That being said, yeah, because risking anything here is tough, because if he lets his Rhyperior get burned, that is pretty much game, all things considered. And he does. Ooh, yeah, that is going to be tough for Kush. Yeah, he is in a very bad position right now. That said, he can still definitely come back if this is, as I said, Calm Mind, Slow King. But if he is, in fact, Calm Mind, I'm not sure how I would feel about him doubling out that turn that he did. Maybe he anticipated this, but I kind of figured Fletch would be his end game. It's an interesting situation to be sure. But that's kind of the thing about this. We will see. Okay, so he does go for the... Alright. Yeah. So he is Calm Mind. That's really interesting. But let's see. Unless he crits return here, which, I mean, I think he's somewhat obligated to try to throw that, unless he's gonna, later on to the series, try to fish for the Relic Song sleep. Which, I mean, what is it? 20% chance of happening? 20% chance of sleeping with Serene Grace? So, that might be a thing that happens here. Nope. But yeah, I think he just throws frustrations here, because it should be, yeah, as you can see by the damage, fishing around the 45 benchmark. So, he is going to be in crit range for at least one more turn, but nope, he just goes for the Virizion. Okay, so if I were Kush, I would just be throwing Psyshock if he, well, he should have it. But he's a big fan of Fire Blast. Okay, yep, that's Fire Blast, and that's really bad, and this is kind of the situation where he would really be wanting it. Yeah, because now he pretty much doesn't win. Oh, he gets the burn, so he's back in the black. That's kind of where it comes in. I mean, like, Psyshock isn't being used to win the Calm Mind Wars. It's never been used to win the Calm Mind Wars, but just situations like those. Because otherwise he could have just, you know, popped it off and been done with it. He actually had, you know, a decent window to win there. But instead he had to rely on the burn, and I'll definitely be giving him the business for that. As the kids say, never, because I don't know how people talk. Okay. This is an excellent narration, if I do say so myself. I am very proud of it. Be sure to let me know in the comments how well I'm doing. And if you say anything bad, my dad works for YouTube, and he'll ban you, so take of that what you will. So I think he's going to just be trying for the Relic Song Sleep here. Yep. And that's, yeah, Kush can't really do anything about that. He's going to just have to play off that. Nope. Okay. So he just flings a Scald here, sees what it catches. If he gets a burn on this, then that's great for him. And he does. Scald is a fantastic move. Oh my gosh, this Pokemon sleeps things like nobody's business. But alright now, so he just slacks off many a time and pretty much pulls this out. Like, Meloetta was... what is he doing? He is choking this game away, I think, because... why would he do that? Okay, he went for frustration instead of the move that can put things... I don't know what's going on at this point in the game. This is very unorthodox, but, okay. Okay, so he does show Ice Punch. That's good for Kush because it means that he can just click Scald here, and that should be the game. Imbor has to lock in his superpower if he wants any chance, and that would have to... I can't even say that a crit would kill it. Definitely wouldn't kill, actually. So that's about it. And seeing a little bit of salt from user Mazari, and wow, that ate that better than I expected. Goodness. Alright, and it gets a nice little crit to end it off, so we will be seeing the next game in the series shortly. Okay, so we are back with the next game in the series. Looking like some interesting teams from both once again. I am actually really liking Mazari's team. I'm not... there's some aspects I don't like about it, particularly the ground weakness. That is going to be very much devastated by a spiker, but it didn't come up this game. Whereas Kush is bringing a variation on one of my old teams with I won't spoil it for the rest of you, but it's got some interesting sets amongst all of them, and we'll see how it pans out. An interesting thing right now, it looks like from kushalos' end, a Tyrantrum can be very dangerous here. If you look at the singular rock resist, this Hariyama, which might be hard-pressed to do other things with it also being the primary switch into a Boma Snow. We'll have to see how these kind of things pan out. Anyway, getting into this, that did nothing from either. That would reflect... and he brings the Tyrantrum right in. That's dubious. That's very dubious. But that is indicative of a very defensive Druddigon, and perhaps a not so... oh, yep, there you go. And he just took tons of damage on his win condition. I don't agree with that one bit. Alright, so it looks like Kush will have to play in a very different fashion to get things done. So Rotom comes out here. I think that the play is, well, at least for Mazari, to go for the Fire Punch. Safest, most accurate move. It will prevent Rotom from getting a sub, because a sub would be very dangerous. He does have a Meloetta to exploit that if it has Hyper Voice. Okay, so Kush makes the right play, just throws a Hex. Keeps his Rotom healthy, because it will be needed to bother a lot of his members, actually. Jolteon, if it does not have Shadow Ball, and most in the higher level of play, quote-unquote, okay. I was going to say it does not have Shadow Ball, but his willingness to throw it out there would suggest otherwise, which is going to be honestly pretty bad for him. If he's going to Steelix, though. He doesn't care. And that does happen. So, interesting series here so far. We'll see how he responds to this. I think if Mazari has seen any other games, and I believe he has, he would be switching out here in fear of the Q-Stap Steelix, seeing as it forgoed the Mega and was played in such a fashion. If Kush wants to get aggressive, know this, because if I recall correctly, Taesung used a similar variation on this very team against him before. He could try to make a double predicting, I don't know, an Abomasnow. It's hard to actually gauge on that, so tough to say. He has no normal resist, though, so an explosion is sure to get something done here. It's just a matter of whether or not Kush is willing to throw out his Steelix here and now, or not. So, that being said, 57% is pretty steep for Steelix, so that might be Specs Jolteon damage. I would think so. Generally speaking, it's not all that favorable to run much else, but to each their own, I suppose. So, let's see. Looking at new win conditions for Kush now, what would he be winning with? I'd figure a combination of Sigilith and Samurott have a chance to come through here. Since really his main thing going against a Samurott would be revenge killing via Jolteon and Meloetta perhaps battering it down a bit with Rocky Helmet from Garbodor. Oh, and he just doesn't. He just doesn't and catches the Jolteon. That's not a set that always sees use, but dang if it's not satisfying when it does. But yeah, the implications of a regular Steelix, of course, being that you get to use some fancy things, usually berries. I've seen Aqua work. I myself have used Kusap, and it has shown some amount of success in tournament games thus far. I think Laurel versus Taesong was a pretty excellent example, if you want to find that replay somewhere. But that is very good for Kush because it lends Rotom to be pretty annoying to his team, being faster than everything, able to at least wisp the Abomasnow, discharge, try to mess with the Meloetta, etc., etc. And it also makes a potential SD Samurott less inclined to boost to push through things, which will be something. Still, I don't agree with the way that he played his Tyrantrum into the Druddigon, which, judging from the damage he should have known, it was physically defensive, but it is what it is. Okay, so he brings out the Rotom, and this is as free a Wisp as I've ever seen, which is interesting indeed, yeah, because, yeah, nope, that's pretty much it. That's a Wisp. Mazar can try to go to Meloetta if he wants, but ooh, that's bad. That's really nasty for Kush. Because with that, this thing is just going to be able to... Because Hariyama is that kind of Pokemon. It's similar to AV Conkeldurr, obviously. I mean, they being both... I'm presuming this is Assault Vest. Sorry about that. Well, he says he's Guts, which would be interesting because that would make his Ice Resist nothing and his Fire Resist a Drud. But, I don't know what to make of that, honestly. I feel like he wouldn't be Guts there, but, I'm inclined to take his word for it because he shouldn't have a reason to lie about that. That said, getting that Wisp damage still would have been very nice for it, because this is the Pokemon that you're essentially trading 1-for-1 for here. So he's forced to bring in probably a Abomasnow if it's SD, and just throw it out there for Woodhammer damage. These series have been less than clean, but from what I've seen, that is to be expected. Both of these players have had their fair share of less than clean games. I'm just going to leave it at that and, give you some basic idea. What is the chat saying? Let's see. This is so dumb, blah, 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 blah. Yep, well, that was all very enlightening. Oh, I should probably not have my Skype open. Very unprofessional, if I do say so myself. This is rough. I'm pretty sure that he's just going straight to Garbodor. Just doing it. And he's not even Rocky Helmet. That's interesting. Ooh. He shows the Haze. Let's see. Do I recall correctly? Yeah, Haze has way more PP, so he's coming in as wild. Honestly, not so much, in my opinion. I think that Haze is a pretty acceptable move, given that Garbodor is generally relying on Gunk Shot to do anything, and if he's leaving it like that, well, from my experience, it's using Garbodor. The issue is that it will present free turns to stuff like Durant, and if Durant gets a free turn versus your offense, that's pretty tough, because the offensive switch-ins to Durant are limited. You can have a Quillfish or something like that, but if you're running Quillfish, Garbodor, and okay, well, that was an interesting one. I guess he's going for the flinch here, and does he get it? No. I'm struggling to see how Kush is going to pull this one out, honestly. I think he just loses. I'll be honest. He Psychics here, the Garbodor goes down, and then he brings in Meloetta, and he just hard brings in Meloetta. Not necessarily a bad play. I think Kush is probably going to try throwing a Thunder Wave if he has it, if this is in fact Sash, which, gauging from that damage, that's a little low for standard Life Orb Sigilith damage, so he's probably going to have T-Wave, knowing, Kush is. Maybe he's getting fancy, he's going to throw away Hypnosis, which I've grown to become a fan of. It's not a move that you shouldn't be relying heavily on, necessarily, but on those occasional situations, say you have, like, a spike stacking offense, and the Togetic, or what have you, just got a free turn in, you really don't lose anything by going for it. And, if you get it, awesome. You've just prevented the spikes from, getting off the field. But if you don't, whatever, the spikes are cleared, it would have been the same. And now you can just bring in your switch. Because Togetic's a pretty light hitting Pokemon. You can just sort of bring in stuff on it. As long as it's, type neutral or even resistant. But, I'm on a tangent. Let's see. Mazar is very free to just throw Hyper Voice if he has it, Shadow Ball if not, because honestly, Bombasnow doesn't switch into any kind of Meloetta that well, really, so we'll have to see. I'm pretty confident he's going to try to throw a T-Wave, though, mess with that, and then from there on in, usually you don't see Sigilith running Dual Stab, so you can't really go for Air Slash flinches. Beyond that, he'll probably just be Psychic Gleam and Heat Wave as his attacking options. But who knows? Who knows? Alright, so he does, in fact, sack the Tyrantrum. He does show Shadow Ball, which means that this is, in fact, without Hyper Voice. So, is he non-choiced? He is non-choiced. He goes for the Focus Blast, and that is the game. So, we're moving on to round 3. We'll see what goes down in that, and, yeah. See you then. Okay, so here we have game 3 for all the theoretical marbles, and goodness is this an interesting one. Look at this team. Oh my gosh, this is wonderful. So I can only imagine that folks are a little confused as to what they're seeing with this, because this is in fact the RU tier, and there is a Pelipper and a Vileplume, but not Pelipper. Vileplume has a significant niche in handling Scrafty, which is actually seen here. That's pretty excellent, actually, because Vileplume gets access to Moonblast, allowing it to more immediately threaten Scrafty while still placing similar roles as a Moongus in the defensive department, absorbing T-Spikes, checking Electrics, Waters, Fighters, etc., whereas Pelipper is an interesting Pokemon. I'm not sure if it's being utilized properly here. Personally, I think that it should be used in a little more offensive setting, but I can see it definitely functioning here, just against this one particular team, as it compresses the role of Bulky Water and Defogger for a team. So good for balance, and the thing is, it's also a pretty solid Durant check. Only Thunderfang variants are actually posing a threat to it, which aren't exceedingly common. It'll be run, specifically on the Choice Band Life Orb variants for the purpose of, not specifically Pelipper, more so Fletchinder, Quillfish, a little more consistent damage versus Almamol, etc. But getting into the game here, Kush leads Bronzong again versus Slowking, and he goes for a Fire Blast. That is a lot of damage. Generally speaking, I would assume that is Specs? Yeah, I'd say that's Specs. which is fair. Again, he has an alternative bulky water. One second, let me just respond to my good friend Julio. Alright, sorry about that. So, Mazar right off the bat makes a nice double attempt into that, gets punished. Kush getting a little chancy. He was playing it a bit too safe, I suppose, for his taste, but his scrafty responses are not very good right now. Goodness. Both of his fright resists are psychics. That is going to be problematic. I think he can just fire off a knockoff pretty safely. If this is Sash Sigil, it'll probably want to preserve that Sash, but I don't know. Ooh, that is okay. That's honestly really good. That's a good play on Kush's end. Going for that, he is removing the Choice Scarf, which honestly played no role in this game. Nothing on Mazar's team was threatening to the point of that being necessary, unless he gets chancy, feeds too many turns to this Scrafty. He should be fine with that. And I think this is a good time to try to throw a head smash, honestly. I don't see Mazar trying to, get gutsy here. He's just going to try to switch something in on the superpower. But who knows? Who knows? I think he is in a decent position to maybe just sack Braviary here, because that does not seem like it is getting much mileage in this game at all. Like, Bulk Up might mess around with things if Tyrantrum goes down. It almost definitely will, actually. Which is an interesting set, but, I don't think it's necessary here. I really don't. One thing that might be really dangerous for Kush if he gives it, or for Mazar rather. Oh, he just brought that. Okay. Well, that did very little. I want to say that it might be an Impish Steelix, not necessarily heavily invested in defense, mind you, but just that addition of, the 10% net gain on that defense really can get a lot of mileage out of Steelix, and while, generally speaking, you would want that for, an adamant nature or careful nature, because buffing out its special defense to allow it to take on electrics and whatnot would be really nice, especially for this kind of a team, which, kind of iffy in the electric matchup, but we shall see. Alright, so here is where Scrafty comes in, and it looks like a perfect opportunity to showcase exactly how well Vileplume takes this Pokemon on. If Kush wants to get gutsy, make a double, he can do it, but I'm not sure if he will. Okay, so yeah, that absorbs that hit. Decent position for Kush. If he is SD Abomasnow, I can see that being a favorable play. If not, if this is a mix Abomasnow set, I honestly would have just gone for the double here, because his Ice Resist is a Slowking, and that's not switching in very well. But yeah, he just goes for the Moonlight. As expected, there was no real reason for him to try to catch Scrafty, because even if it tries to get gutsy, it can just take any hit and Moonblast in return, which is nice. Unlike, a Moongus, where it would be Sledge Bombing for 30% and hoping for the poison to help it edge its way through. So, just to acknowledge that niche in this metagame. And he makes another double. Ooh, snazzy. Alright, so I can only assume this is going to have Dazzling Gleam, because otherwise that play doesn't really make any sense. He's going to go to Slowking here, and yeah, there's the Dazzling Gleam. So that's not Life Orb damage, unless he is Assault Vest Slowking, but as we've seen, that's probably a Spec Slowking he's flaunting right now. So, Kush can always respond with his own Slowking, but there's the chance of double. He doesn't go for the double, though. Okay. So I'm pretty sure Kush can just throw his own Scalds. If Mazar wants to do it, this is just going to be a Scald Fest, I believe. Which is just sort of the nature of Slowking. Sometimes you just got to do that. The only way that Slowking really pushes through another Slowking is via the Scald Burns just wearing them down, or a Nasty Plot set with Psyshock eventually beating it out. But okay, he just decides to go in and, ooh, that is not good for Kush, because, well, I mean, it wasn't good for mazar either, so I guess it's all evening out. But it's showing how great of a move Scald is, and isn't that awesome? Scald is a wonderful move. I think that it's balanced. I do. But this presents an interesting situation. If this is in fact a Dragon Dance Scrafty, which not a big fan of leftovers shed skin Scrafty, but I've seen it used, and if you can, manage those kind of convenient shed skin activations, then it works out. So, but if he Dragon Dances here, that could prove very threatening. I really don't like how fighting weak this team is. I mean, oh well, but yeah, I'm pretty sure he's safe to Dragon Dance here, unless he wants to predict, again, the Focus Sash Sigilith, which seems reasonably likely, and he could just throw a knockoff again, but I don't know. Let's see. And he goes for the Drain Punch. That's honestly a fair play, actually, because it will be, breaking the potential Sigilith Sash, as well as hitting the Tyrantrum. I did not give that play credit. That's something. Oh, and he does make the double here. That is going to be interesting, especially, again, if this is a mixed set. Because that can just... Well, Slowking can take a Giga Drain and Oko back with Fire Blast. But I don't think he's able to risk that here, honestly, because... without Slowking, rather, that Sigilith is going to be very threatening to his team. So I think we're going to see... a switch to what? Potentially a switch to Braviary? But he's asking for someone to stop the timer. I'm not sure exactly what's going on with that. And, okay, we might just be pausing the thing. So, we'll get back after he's done with his business. Back again, and it looks like... Ooh, alright, so... Sorry, they kind of jumped in really quickly. Didn't allow me much time. So he is, in fact, the SD Abomasnow, which wood hammers the Steelix coming in, and SD's up to finish it off. This is not a great look for Kush at all. I believe, yeah, all that happens here is that he goes into Pelipper and clicks U-turn pretty safely, because, yeah, Pelipper is not needed in this game at this point. It eats Ice Shard handily, and it can just, I mean, if this Abomasnow is particularly fast, which it could be, it just wood hammers and trades, so I'm pretty sure that's the best play here. He can go into Scrafty and take an Ice Shard, but I don't think it wants to. I don't see any real reason for his Pokemon that's so threatening to take damage. So he agrees, goes to Pelipper. And, yeah, if Kush is fast, like very fast, Jolly, I think, needs to outpace, yeah. So, if he is that fast, he goes for Woodhammer, makes the trade. If not, he might just, yeah, he goes for it. And he does go for the Scald, so that would be probably indicative of a Hurricanes. But I don't see the point in Hurricane here. He doesn't need to immediately pressure those things when he has an alt switch in, but I don't know. I do not know. So, that said, yeah, this Sigilith is just not going to put in the work that you want it to put in while Slowking's in the back like this. It can just come in, fling another Scald. Once he starts getting that traction from Scald burning the opposing Slowking, he can really get into the game. I don't think Mazar needs to make a double at all. He can if he wants to, but gracious knows he doesn't need to. So let's see, yeah, he goes for it and just Scalds. He gets the burn, so... Let's see, oh, he's doubling. He is doubling into what? Into Scrafty on Scrafty, and again, he has that Vileplume though, so, oh. Oh, it is bulk up. Still, though, that's the thing with Vileplume. If this was an Amoonguss, then yeah, that would be dangerous, but as is, yeah, that just can Moonblast, and that Bronzong is not holding up. It's not going to be able to threaten in any way, unless it's Psychic, which I doubt. Psywave, again, his little favorite tech, but, if it's a Roost Sash Sigilif, which I think is a perfectly viable option, he can go into it here, but he might just be sacking his Bronzong, going in to his Sigilif, and then playing off that, but I don't see a way that Kush can effectively win this game. But we shall see. We shall see. Because it is Pokemon, and the best player doesn't necessarily win. Breaking dreams right there, but that is the case. So, do you see Sigilif coming in? Honestly, I still don't think he needs Braviary at all this game, so if he wants to get, gutsy with anything, he can just go that. But he does go Slowking, and yeah, if he maybe wants to keep doubling to wear down Vileplume via Stealth Rock damage, that's a play he can try to make if he wants to. But even then, there's the Braviary in the back that's preventing... This is a weirdly built team. It feels excessive, but I won't question it because I've probably seen worse in my past experiences. So... yeah, looks like Kush might be trying for that consistent doubling thing. Well, I guess it's no longer doubling once you've done it more than twice, Once you've switched, that is. But maybe he'll just try to pull the trigger here. I don't think that's wise, and he does go for it. I guess, so... he doesn't lose all that much in doing that, but maybe he'll be trying for the prediction here. Who knows? But yeah, given what he's seen, both Slowking and Scrafty are decent switch-ins, so this is difficult. This is a difficult call. But he does just go for the safe play. I don't think that Mazari's in a position where he needs to predict, so that makes perfect sense to me. Here's a chance where I think, again, he is in the position that he doesn't need to predict. He can pretty safely just go Scrafty without losing anything. But if he wants, again, he can throw out... Okay. And Kush does Scald. He does not get the burn, which is problem for him. I think that Mazari's just in the position where he can throw another Drain Punch, see where it goes, and he doesn't. He bulks up. I am unsure why bulk up Scrafty is suddenly getting all this traction, honestly. It's a Scrafty, it is a Slowking switch-in, rather. It is a bit of an Abomasnow switch-in, but so is Malamar, and that's a little, generally speaking, a little more effective in doing what it seeks to do, so I'm not 100% sold on that. That said, both players are using it, so, what can I say? I'm not in the finals of RU Open, so take of that what you will. I would say, again, Mazari can very easily just throw out Braviary. He doesn't need Braviary, but okay, there we go. So, alright, and it does not show an item, which means that it is going to be some kind of more aggressive set, but what exactly? Honestly, I don't think that Scarf is particularly good, so this might just be clicking Brave Bird and getting a kill here, because... Okay, nope, that is very Scarfed. Okay, so Scarf Braviary, clicks U-turn, goes to Scrafty, safe play. He's again in the position where he can just throw a Drain Punch and get away with it. So that's what I'm kind of expecting to see again. because he doesn't need to not do that. And he goes for the knockoff, and he does catch what I expected as a focus sash. So this is almost checkmate, I say, question mark. Again, he's got free reign to go right back to Slow King, click Scald. This feels awfully repetitive, and I feel bad for this because it's just not an interesting narration, but that's where we stand right here. I don't see Kush pulling this one out. So that is what it is. Alright, so yeah, we see that again, and then he can very easily go back to the Vileplume, unless, let's see, past experiences, that knockoff did 26, so he would need to do the double back and forth twice more for this to pan out effectively. Maybe just once more, if it's a roll that I'm not aware of, but I could not say. And he's going for it. Does he get it? He's getting it. Okay. Maybe he can get away with bulking up here and see where it goes, because again, we saw that Braviary is on the weaker end. So if he does in fact choose to bring that in, go for Brave Bird. I don't think it should break a +1 Scrafty, and he can Drain Punch, and then it would rely heavily on how much speed each of those Scrafties running. So, interesting turn of events, because Scrafty was generally regarded as not that great, though I think it is much better than it's often given credit, but this game might boil down to Scrafty on Scrafty action, which would be lovely to see. Okay, but he does go, ooh, so he is that's an interesting one. Okay. So, we see a trick from the Slow King, revealing that, again, it is Spec, so cool. And he just goes back to Scrafty, takes it handily, because, yeah, it's Scrafty. It is pretty dang bulky. I want to say base 60 HP and 116 defenses off the top of the head, so Careful is tanking hits really well. It's an interesting Pokemon for sure on that merit. But, yeah. I think that Mazar is probably in a position where he, since it's revealed Scarf Braviary, interesting. And he just goes for it. Alright, so this is perhaps a game. Yeah, I think that Kush expected more damage out of that, and if I recall correctly, he knocked that off earlier in the game, though, so that's odd. Wow, this is turn 41. That felt much longer, but gracious, who knows? Oh, 115 and base 65. I stink. Worst commentary ever, let me know in the comments. But he does go for that, and he does, in fact, get... Oh my gosh. Okay, so he doesn't know that. Interesting turn of events here at theyoutube.com. But he goes to Sigilif here to sack, I believe, and then he goes Slow King. And things are played off from there. Oh, he just hard switches Slow King. That's not the right play, I don't think, because it's not tanking. So, I think, yeah, he ends up losing HP in that exchange that he could be using for later. I don't think it's that valuable, but dang. So, I do believe he goes Sigilif here, at the very least. Maybe he was trying to get extra chip damage on the Braviary so that it can't switch in at a later point, but I am not certain. So, but yeah, he does need to go to Sigilif to stay in this game. Unless he really thinks this isn't Scarf Braviary, which I would not agree with. Okay, so he sacks his Slowking and now loses if this is Scarf Braviary. I don't know what that play is, really. I don't. Yeah, what? That's very disagreeable, but, Mazari's thinking about his move, or Kusha's thinking about his move, so if Mazari is the one thinking maybe this actually isn't Scarf, but it should be, because U-turn doing 33 to a Slowking is not representative of anything else. Maybe he's Sharp Beak, but I could not say for certain. Very interesting finals this year. Okay, yep, that's game. So, congrats to both players for getting this far. Congrats to Mazari for, having a wider chance to make it in and be the winner of this RU Open. Hopefully I'll be able to record him versus HJAT, and thanks to everyone for watching. There we